So when you talk about building your tribe, obviously family was wildly important for you. When you were coming up as a young man who, you know, on paper has some disabilities, where did you find your tribe? Who was in your tribe? Who was in your front row, your circle? Like, how did you find good men or women to surround yourself with? Because it takes a village, right?
Right. But let me tell you this. I grew up in a kind of inner city. So out of maybe 75 black males that I knew, only one of us had a father. And
wait, one out of 75 of your boys growing up had a father?
Yeah, we only one guy had a dad. And we remembered I would go over and we would hang out and we were like, man, what does a dad even do? Right? We'd ask those questions. And I was like, can a dad fight? Man, you ever fought your dad? I mean, a lot of us didn't have the acceptance from our fathers. We saw him every blue moon, or he just wasn't involved. Mom dated someone periodically or whatever, or was single mom and it was just you and mom, right? And so that wasn't fulfilling for me. I wanted to know. I'm watching television and I see a pastor on TV. And I reach out to him and was like, hey, man, I like to come to your church. And they were like, well, I don't know if you know, but it's all white church. I'm like, man, I don't care about that stuff, man. I like what you're saying. I'm coming. And I was like, do you mind if I bring some friends? So we go to this I end up going, I'm a teenager, man. I go to this all white church. I meet the pastor and I'm asking him questions. And for the first time, I have a male that's like answering questions. I see he loves his wife. And I got to tell you, so what made me want to be a part around men who were successful, had goals, destination, all that stuff, right? Was that the first Sunday I ever went, he and his wife got an argument in the car when they picked me up. And I was like, oh, wow. So he gets in the pulpit. No one knows this, right? And she's upset that he's coming to the bad side of town picking up this kid. He gets up and he says, listen, today I spoke to my wife wrong. I'm not qualified to stand up here and talk to you people about morality and character. I'm going to sit. First, let me apologize to my wife publicly for what I did in private. And then I'm going to sit down. And he said, if there's any other man in here who's living right, why don't you step up and you talk today? And all of a sudden, this is a church of about 500 people. Every man was walking around apologizing to their children, to their wives. And it was such a move. And it was like, that was the most powerful display of manhood. You see, so when I began to be around men and I realized you're not a punk for saying I'm sorry, and that you could be successful, that you could have finances, that you could have stuff without the stuff becoming you, that you don't have to floss and all those things. So finding the tribe, growing up, finding men that I could connect with and have them mentor me, if you will, whether they wanted to or not. I was staying engaged, staying involved, asking questions. And I always respected guys, uncles that I had that were in the military. They just weren't around. So I always order, structure, discipline. And so when I got to this stage, and I had guys like Greg Reed I met. He sends me a book, 3 Feet from Gold, and invites me out, and I started meeting other people who are successful. Then I've taken them back to the inner cities. I just did this in Chattanooga. I took 6 millionaires, brought them to the inner city, a church of 7,000 members. Kevin Adams is the pastor there in Chattanooga, and had them talk about how they became successful. The people there ate that up, wanted it. I mean, we're thirsty for it. So I'm building a tribe while I'm going back to the same villages, traveling the country, going back to the same community centers, and showing them how I made it out and how to get them out. And where I'm not strong, like you're a loan officer, there's more that you know about finances than I'll ever know. You have a superpower, what you take for granted every day and what you coach to your guys. Man, it would change our entire community. And I'm talking about a whole race of people, if we could understand finances. We're the lowest economic earners in the country, but yet we spend more than anyone. We have more BMWs than any other race. We carry Louis Vuitton and Birkin bags and Tiffany jewelry. But brother, we don't have financial wisdom, knowledge. You see, finding people like you to be a part of the tribe, the same reason those people with 120 come to you is because you're a difference maker. The reason why people are tuning into this podcast is because you're giving them something different. Your content pours out of your character.
Yeah, much more emotional podcast than I was expecting today, James. And by the way, I can ask you these questions because I got to give a shout out to Midge. That was my grandmother. She passed when I was 15, 16, and much like you, most important woman in my life. Like, just was the most important family. Just all the things that you said just resonated with me about her, and she was a wonderful woman. So I can really relate and tear up about the grandmother support.